Hello and welcome to the Gold Goats and Guns podcast for September 18th, 2025. My name is Tom Luongo. We have a lot to talk about, and we do, and we will with my guests today. It is episode 231, and I have with me the great pleasure of bringing in one of my brand new friends that I met back in April for the first time. Senior foreign affairs correspondent and contributor over at Newsmax TV, Blaine Holt is with me today, and we're going to have a wide-ranging conversation. But before I bring Blaine in, if you care about your liberty and the right to control your own future, I need to inform you of something particularly cool. From October 10th to the 12th, Mikhail Thorup, host of the Expat Money Show, is bringing together top experts from around the world for the Expat Money Online Summit. It's completely free to attend. You'll learn how to legally protect your wealth, secure second residences and citizenships, reduce your tax burden, and own property abroad, all to safeguard your freedom. This year's focus is on Latin America, where opportunity is booming. Argentina is shifting to free markets. El Salvador is undergoing a traumatic transformation, and Panama and Paraguay are offering simple residency programs. A plan B is no longer optional, folks. It's essential. So reserve your free ticket at expatmoneysummit.com. That's expatmoneysummit.com. Blaine, welcome to the show.
So good to be with you, my brother. Just a little bit about me.
Sure.
I am a recovering one-star general from the Air Force.
Okay.
I had 27 years of flying and multi-command levels. And then I went off of airlift and logistics into a split personality of logistics that took me to my seminal command in Kyrgyzstan with a blinding revolution in my face, and Petraeus dealing with my PTSD to send me to the Council on Foreign Relations as a senior military fellow to write about it and convalesce.
Right.
But I loved the adventures of my life. And then foreign affairs, China and Europe have been my portfolios. And now I'm an entrepreneur and building businesses, and I have skipped right over the swamp. And now I get to turn around after my anger at Kabul and opine all about it.
Well, that's a great way of introducing it, because actually that's not what you and I talked about. So I met Blaine for the first time up in April in New York when I broke my boycott of the state of New York, because I don't like to give them any tax money. But since I'll be honest with you, Newsmax was paying for most of the trip, I didn't really feel that bad about it. I kid. No, at the Newsmax IPO back in April, Chris Ruddy was kind enough to invite me up there for the event, and of course, thankfully I accepted without any issue. But what was interesting was at the dinner the night before, and now for those of you who don't really believe this, I'm unbelievably socially awkward in situations like that, because when you're all signal and all noise and you don't know how to do freaking small talk like I do, you sit in the corner and you wind up looking like the security guard. And so I'm standing there during the opening of this dinner, and have no one to talk to, can't find anybody from the newsletter division, can't find my editor or my publisher. And then this guy comes up and is like, Tom Luongo, holy shit, big fan, sit down, we're having dinner. And I'm like, oh, thank God. Inside I'm like, who are you? And great talk. And I put the armor on, but dude, I was like, thank God.
It was a fun evening. And first off, the food was amazing.
Yeah, it really
But
was.
the other part was at our table we had Newsmax's Lydia Cernay and Carl Higbee, and I think about three-quarters of the way through the dinner, the two of them were like, "Do you guys need a table for two?"
Yeah, or
I
in the immortal words of Rodney Dangerfield, you two should get a room. Like
that's right. I was like, it's Tom Luongo. I've got an agenda here. I want to shake that brain down for all these things that I'm curious about.
which I appreciated greatly, and and it was a lovely conversation. It was a lovely evening, and I really enjoyed it. And interestingly enough, as that evening went along, and I say to you that I'm no good at small talk after you went off to, as you put it, press the flash, which is what you had to do, which I appreciated. I wound up sitting off in the corner having a cup of coffee and eating dinner or eating dessert and just watching the room, hoping that eventually I would find the guys from the newsletter division have a sit and have a chat and get to
Sure.
and all of that. And I wind up making small talk right after the mayor, Rudy Giuliani,
Hmm.
and he winds up sitting at the table that we sat at, and I'm sitting
Right.
right next to him, and I'm behind him when Eric Adams walks in the room, and they have their little
Right.
tete-a-tete like the good mob bosses they are, and I'm like, that's really interesting. Okay, and I sit
Yeah.
down and I start making small talk with this woman who comes over, and and I'm just like watching the whole thing. And it turns out that I did a really good job of this because that was Chris Reddy's sister. And
Yeah.
we had a lovely chat and, and all of that. And I'm like, oh, it wound up being an incredibly successful evening for
Yeah.
saying to myself, how did I wind up here? Right. So,
Yeah.
um,
Great people.
it really was. It was a really good evening, and yeah, the food was amazing. The food at the New York Stock Exchange the next day was um unbelievably underwhelming. I'm like, dude, you guys make
Right.
all the money in the world, and you're serving me Lender's
That's right.
tables in New York? Are you
Catering budget,
kidding?
not so much.
Like, seriously? Like,
Yeah. Real breakfast burritos from 7-Eleven that you shouldn't have.
yeah, yeah, thanks. Don't spend all that in one place, right? It was singularly underwhelming, right? I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, really? So, yeah. All right. So with all that out of the way, so you guys understand where this relationship comes from, because this is, for all intents and purposes, Blaine's introduction to my portion of my corner of the universe. And that corner is, the warped and unbounded, right? Let's just get a lay of the land. Like, you're Mr. Strategy, right? That's your gig. You're a strategic analyst and whatnot. You tell me, where do you want to start? Like, where do you want to, what do you see the state of the strategic state of play is? I don't care if it's from the Trump administration or anything. You take your pick, go the thing, and go to town, man, and enjoy.
Yeah, I think the best way to frame things as we get going down some rabbit holes that I think are fairly important right now is to kind of start with the term World War Forever. And it really has been World War Forever. We like to label things in buckets. We love our retail versions of stories. The one I'm currently combating as gingerly as I can is the Charlie Kirk assassination story. There's so much more there and so much more to come. But but what we find ourselves in, I think, over time is this battle between folks in the dark who know they want freedom, know they want self-determination, self-governance, but they don't know who the enemy is. They've never known who the enemy is. And even with sterling educations in private preparatory schools in our nation, and being told and anointed that you're on your way now to the very best college that we have, you can get out of a Michael Porter business school class at Harvard and still not know who's the puppet master, who's controlling the strings. But where this world war has gotten itself to is what I believe is the denouement. It's the most dangerous place we could possibly be in right now. And we really don't know the outcome or the alternatives. I see strategies in play, but I see a population that is actually fighting like hell to wake up and educate themselves. And I think that's why you see the podcast industry just taking off like gangbusters, because people understand when they're being sold bazooka bubblegum. They just know it. And I think COVID did a lot to shake a lot of people. But then we just see outrageous things where it's like, you don't even care what this looks like. You're just selling us this narrative and you don't care whether we buy it or not. So when I talk about World War Forever, when we talk about who's in charge, who are the players, we got to go ahead and get our origami tinfoil hats nearby just in case we have to put them on. But this is the place that has been intentionally constructed this way so that if you go into that rabbit hole, we will castigate you as a tinfoil hat guy. We will castigate you as a conspiracy theorist. We'll always put the word theorist on the back ass of that, because if it's just a conspiracy, then you're making an allegation. If it's a theorist, now you get a tinfoil hat and you're not part of the game anymore.
Mhm.
So people say, I don't want to be near that, or we call you a racist, or we call you something else. And then reasonable people are like, I don't want to be anywhere near that.
Right.
So what does that mean? Who are the bad guys? Well, people will go, I know who the bad guys are. It's Hillary Clinton. It's the Clintons. It's the Soroses. It's those guys. And what I tell people is, no, that's middle management. That is absolutely middle management, and
Mhm.
they are on a commission only basis.
Mhm.
And if you sense that they're conducting evil, you're right. You're right. Your intuition serves you well. But go higher, get out a history book, go find stuff, and don't find a McGraw-Hill history book that we were fed in high school either, because that's not going to help you out. You need to be into the depths of what's going on. And again, that's why here comes my shameless plug. My coming podcast is I'm going to launch is called Dangerous Intellectuals, of which you are going to be a part. And it's that group of people who really we have unlocked from the system. You can call it a matrix or whatever, but we don't give a rat's ass what anybody thinks. We just are going to say, hey, I don't know how this whole thing ends up, but warning, you might want to be a little careful with that next mRNA product you pick up.
Mhm.
Or you may want to be very careful with that CNN article that came out to tell you what happened that day at Butler. Um, because there is a thirst for truth. And I think we don't know how this World War Forever is going to come out, but I do think this is we're in a phase for all the marbles. Why? Because this guy named Trump somehow, I mean, we can talk about the Serbian operations going on, but somehow gets himself back in to the White House, and he's the great disruptor. Now he's not perfect. This is this is as a strategist. And I'm not invited to be in the inner circle. They do tolerate my calls and my texts when I'm like, "What are you doing?" Um, but 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 he's the best we got. We don't have a president Kamala Harris in. So when we all get mad that Cash says Epstein really did kill himself in the jail cell, okay, he killed himself. What's next?
Right,
Um,
right, right, right,
we can get angry tactically,
right.
but what I would say is our champion, man, he's in the thick of it. And what I would argue is, while there's some rough edges and things I worry about greatly, I don't like his relationships with the tech oligarchs, but maybe I'll be proven wrong.
Mhm.
I don't like how he doesn't connect the medical stuff to the 5G stuff, to the blockchain stuff, to the CBDC stuff. By the way, all that legislation that was there to protect you is worthless.
Mhm.
Um, and and we can fight that battle later. Today's battle is that you have a bunch of what I would call senior management, your Ursula von der Leyens, your Klaus Schwabs, your Larry Finks. They're senior management. They're not puppet masters. They want to be puppet masters, but they never will be because they don't have the right blood in their veins.
Right.
So, so that gets us up to who's controlling the deal. Now we get into those spooky names like Rothschilds, City of London, the royal family, and the like, or the Sultan of Brunei. This is a global thing.
Right.
The Chinese Communist Party elders,
Right.
and this is where trillions of dollars of wealth. I always get amused when somebody says Elon Musk, wealthiest guy in the world. And I go, oh, not even close.
Not even close.
So, 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 so this is where the stakes are. These people write down on the internet what they really want as victory of their war, their forever war they've been working towards. And this is domination, depopulation, less of you, and you never get to peep about anything. And we'll tell you where to fart or where to take a crap, and we'll tell you what you get to eat today. Most likely it's bugs,
Mhm.
and you're going to be in your 15-minute pie hole, and there's just going to be a whole lot less of you. So that's where this is headed. But I think the herd is stirring, and this is what I love. And Trump is running, at least in the last 2 weeks, he's running the table strategically.
Yeah,
Yesterday,
yeah, yeah, yeah. He is.
I'm taking Bagram. I'm taking Bagram back. I'm like, oh, master stroke. So the day before you have a phone call with Xi Jinping, you're in his head rent free already because he's staving off the wolves, trying to stay in command of his country, which he's not going to.
Mm.
And and you hit him when he's weak, and you say, yeah, by the way, I want Bagram back, and I'm just going to kind of be the little ankle biter right there for China, and I'm going to exact the right behavior out of you. Meanwhile, the kids in Europe are like, oh, we never saw that coming. And hey, the special relationship in the UK is special again, apparently, because they got $150 billion worth of business. And I'm certain that we exacted some new behavior on attitudes about the Ukraine war and other things.
Yeah, no, I would. That was the thing that was funny. But before Trump went to the meet with King Sausage Fingers, I someone asked me on Twitter. They said, why is Trump going to meet with the enemy then? Like, I'm like, to offer them their terms of surrender.
Right.
And
That's exactly it.
and look, at the end of the day, we still have a bunch of relationships with Britain. He doesn't. I've been my operating principle when it comes to Trump, since Elon Musk first started going after Keir Starmer back in December, which was a strategic play. I said, look,
Mhm.
it's very obvious now at this point he wants to not just save the United States, but he's going to save the entire English Commonwealth.
Yeah.
And because of that, you have to make a strategic investment into the north of England, which is where they're going to
Yeah.
put these tech centers, right? It's in the north of England, the places that,
Right.
Stanley Kubrick was able to not leave England to make Full Metal Jacket because it was never rebuilt after World War II.
Right.
Say, let's
That's right.
import some palm trees and put up some pictures of Ho Chi Minh, and all of a sudden it's way, right?
Yeah.
Like he didn't even
Yeah.
need to go to Vietnam, and like he just stay there and do it. It's like that. That's how bad it is, folks. This.
I would adventure. Let me posit this to you,
Sure,
and you tell me what you think.
sure.
The I think if this is all going to go well, we're going to be on the eve of actually winning the American Revolutionary War.
Absolutely.
And this time the stakes are you're out, we're in. Our Constitution, the world's most perfect governance document, is now going to flourish,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll be calling the shots now.
Mm-hmm.
And you, City of London kids, pay your tuition. That's my best
Yeah,
advice for you.
yeah. Well, that's what I've been saying for a very, very long time, Blaine, and which is that, and you and I will probably disagree on this a little bit, and that's perfectly
Mhm.
reasonable. Which is that I don't
Sure.
see BRICS as a thing. I've come to the conclusion a long time ago that BRICS was a creation of of Goldman Sachs and a variety of other people,
Oh, sure.
and then ultimately, Russia and China and everybody they ran with that idea in order to, deal with what they were dealing with from the West
Yeah.
under Obama and under
Hmm.
the Biden junta, because I refuse to call it the Biden administration. Certainly a
Hmm.
junta. Now that pushes them in that direction, but of course the West was always going to peel Brazil off, destroy South Africa, and then play
Right.
footsie with India. And I've said for
Right.
a long time that the I and the S in BRICS during the Biden junta were really Iran and Saudi Arabia,
Right.
not India and South Africa.
Right.
Now, all that being said, I've been, we've been, my Alex Rayner and I have been positing for a long time, and I can see this forming, which is that Trump's foreign policy now is like laying this out that we're not looking at a future of BRICS, we're looking at a future of ARC, America, Russia,
Hmm.
China,
Right.
carving the world up, centering the
Right.
world around the Hawaiian Islands and the Pacific Ocean, and looking at the globe from that perspective, and realizing,
Yeah.
or even from via the North Pole, and realizing that from a variety of different angles, strategic angles,
Hmm.
there's no reason why the United States and Russia would not be allies here. Um, and the problem now is just trying to figure out how to extricate the United States from all of that legacy
Right.
that we
Right.
have, and then therefore that has to be done by degrees, and has to be done in such a way that the American population understands the transition,
Yeah.
because we have a political situation here in the United States, or a popular situation, where most people don't understand. They think that the Russians are the bad guys.
Yeah.
There's easily 20% of America that still calls them the Ruskies, for Christ's
I
sake.
know. I know.
So we have a lot of work. He has a lot of work to do in that respect. So, but so I would say that that's the situation, and that's what the American Revolution really looks like. Um,
Hmm.
and I've said it before. I'll say it again. It's like I look at the American Revolution the same way one of the former Chinese foreign ministers looked at, when asked about the French Revolution, I know during the Vietnam War, and he said, well,
Hmm.
what do you think about the French Revolution? He says, well, I think it's a good, it's too early to tell. And
Right.
that's the way I look at
It's true.
the American Revolution, is that, and that's why Trump is targeting the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of
He
Independence.
is.
That's
He is.
why there's a variety of things going on. So we can talk about so you had that particular strategic thing. Talk to me about what you're seeing from, from other strategic little bits that you're seeing that you think that he's done well in
Mhm.
the last couple of weeks, aside from like the Bagram thing.
Yeah. So I think he's handled and managed China quite well.
Mm-hmm.
um, in many regards, and I think to your point about Russia phobia and all that type of stuff. In many regards, um, he will say things. I'm great friends with Xi Jinping. You'll get Howard Lutnick on there saying, "How about 600,000 student visas and all that?" And everybody goes bananas.
Mm-hmm.
But what has happened with this tariff regime? He learned in the first term quite well. China cheats on everything. Every single thing they say to your face will be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
There is no such thing as a contract or rule of law there. These people organ harvest. They are getting extended on their Belt and Road Initiative. And what did Trump do? He said, Belt and Road. Explain that to me. Okay. So this is the mother of all logistics disasters where they've created payday loans in all these countries and said, yeah, here's your shadow economy, here's your above board economy. And by the way, the interest is 45% or whatever it's going to end up being. But we own you, Africa, and we own you and you and you.
Mhm.
But the problem with that is we learned, and President Trump, who understands supply chains quite well,
Mhm.
understands that supply chains can bankrupt you in 5 hot seconds, and they're unwieldy. And this goes back to Rome. This is this is exactly why Hannibal blew it. He didn't understand his logistics scale was very, very important to him, and he ran out of money.
Right.
Well, this is where we're at. So, what's the impact of the effect? I love how you frame the arc: America, Russia, China, but it's this stepsister China that needs a little rehabilitation.
Mhm.
And we've got to shepherd them and let them get through this final phase of what they're going to go through. They're on their way, they're from recession, on their way to depression. You have four factions inside the Chinese Communist Party that are duking it out for power. The only thing we do know is that they've told Xi Jinping, and I mean chest thumping him, that you're gone. You're going to be a figurehead dude, and you're going to shut up in color because that guy's name is General Zhang Yuxia, and he owns the entire military. Right now, the 82nd Guard never redeployed out of the parade. They're around Beijing. They have elements of the southern units down in Guangdong running up and down the streets with personnel carriers. You've got Shenzhen, same thing. They're seeing personnel carriers in the streets because they're terrified that the people, what's left of them, by the way, they're not 1.4 billion anymore, are going to go take them out, and they have every reason to believe that they will. That's one of the four factions. But where President Trump sees the opportunity is in punching them when they're weak, when they're in disarray. And he's doing that with quite great effect because the Chinese can't bitch about the tariffs. Why? They would be showing weakness. They'd be showing vulnerability to that. So they're a silent screen, and they're just diving deeper. So then, what I mean by rehabilitation is we're probably, and I'm going to bet and speculate here, shouldn't do it, especially with Chinese politics, but I believe Hu Jintao's protege, Hu Chunhua, and then another reformist named Wang Yang will be the premier. I think that's number one and number two, what we're going to see come out of the October plenum. But once that happens, you're going to see two cats who are like, yes, Mr. Trump, whatever you need. We just want to be like Deng Xiaoping, and we're gonna straighten up our act. And then you're gonna see the list of not just American but Russian demands laid on desks, saying those are the terms. You can join us, or you won't like the alternative.
Mhm.
And just like the days of Claire Chennault coming to help a guy named Chiang Kai-shek, they're gonna take that hand that's extended to them, and that's fascinating because the retail version you get over here is China's gonna eat our shit. They're bigger than anything. They're throwing out of control. Did you see that military?
Did you
Go
did you
show
see
me.
did you see the electricity usage? That's in
Yes,
my space, right? In the financial space, it's all
right.
electricity usage. I'm like, guys, understand they fought with the Russians. This is actually to add to your
Yep.
point because none of that I knew anything about because I refuse to like dig deep into Chinese politics because it just makes my eyes glaze over. I just know that the whole China's going to eat our lunch nonsense is just
Yeah.
nonsense. Um,
Yeah.
and we have more in common than we have. We're better as trade
Oh yeah.
partners and rivals than we are as enemies, and all the rest of it is just gaslighting. But the Chinese and the Russians have
Mhm.
been negotiating over price of the Power Siberia 2 for seven
Yep.
years.
I know, and it's a new thing in the retail press. It's a
Right.
brand new thing
Right.
that
And I'm
they've
like,
done.
the only thing that they negotiated was about 7 years ago. They decide will it or will it not go directly through Ulaanbaatar and Mongolia or not. And
Yeah,
eventually the
that's right.
Russians said, yeah, it can go through Mongolia. And Mongolia
Yeah,
said, great, they can sign off on it. We're all good. They've been
right.
negotiating about price forever because the Chinese thought they were
Yeah,
going to be able to play the game of getting the Russians to sign a bad deal, similar to what a desperate deal, similar to what they got for the gas that Russia's piping
yeah,
them via Power Siberia 1. Power Siberia
that's right.
1 is not a great deal for the Russians, but it was made under duress. It was the best deal
Yeah,
they could get at the time. Power Siberia
helps cash
2,
flow. It's a cash flow deal. That's
yeah,
all it is.
yeah. And
Yeah,
Power Siberia 2 is different. This is
yeah,
Putin flexing and saying, look, I have you by the balls on energy.
yeah. Yep,
And I have Trump in my
absolutely.
corner backing me
Right.
up to cut off Europe. I don't have to go back to Europe. He's actually forcing Europe. Like the trade.
Yeah.
Look at what he did with the trade. Look at what he did with the tariffs on India.
Yeah.
Blaine, like think about this for a second. I mean, I don't know if you. I mean, I don't know if I actually talk. I've talked about it in other podcasts. And I know you listen to most of the ones that I do, but this is to remind
Yeah.
everybody. Let's get it all in one place here, right?
Yeah.
So, um, everybody asking, well, why the thing with India? Why are you driving India into the arms of the BRICS? I'm like, they're not. They're trying. We're driving India away from the Brits
Yeah.
because the
That's right.
Brits have been trying to extend the Pooh Empire across the
Yeah.
fucking world, and
Oh
it's
yeah.
bullshit.
Right.
India is not sorry, folks, but they're not a world power. They only LARP as a world power because they have backing from City of London and
Right.
Brussels. And Modi
Right.
likes to play the game of having being a man with being able to like play everybody off each other to get a deal. At the end of the
Oh,
day,
he's got to do that for his
that whole
domestic
Russell
politics.
Peters model of Indians
Yeah.
being grifters
Mhm.
is true.
Yeah.
And
Right.
Modi just got fucking told no, over. You go to the Chinese and the
Right.
Russians, great, but and then Trump turns around and says, "Hey, Europe, you want me to fight World War III for you over Ukraine? Great,
Yeah.
sanction everybody,
Yeah.
like we want you to
Stop
do all
breathing
this."
oxygen, enter into famine, and we'll all just be fine. I'll
Yeah,
go champion
let's do
Europe.
this. Hey, let's do this. You want your war? Great. Cut
Yeah.
off your nose to spite your face. And of course, the Europeans politely declined. I wonder
Yeah.
why. But
I wonder why.
what does that do for Trump? It gives him all the political cover at home to say, this is not
Yeah.
my war. I'm trying to make peace here. He can yell at
Yeah.
Putin, he can yell at Xi, he can yell at the Chinese, but the goal is to reorient American foreign policy per
Hmm.
the recent directive that came out with the name change to the Department of War, that they're not going to follow
Yeah.
the NDAA anymore and build
Right.
the Department of Defense towards a two-front war against Russia and China. Now they're going to
Right.
turn around and create fortress Western Hemisphere,
Yeah.
which
This
is why they put
reestablishes.
Marco Rubio in Secretary of State in the first place.
It is.
What we said
But this
back in
also
the
reestablishes faith with the forces as well, because we're not going to be the vanguard of climate change. We're
right.
not going to be the defender of diversity and inclusion.
Mm-hmm.
We're not going to do a whole lot of humanitarian crap. We're going to get back to basics. This is war. We defend, we win America's wars, and this is how war works.
Mm-hmm.
And then what that'll drive, Tom, and I think this is so important
Mm-hmm.
because you hear dangerous noise all the time. And the most recent dangerous noise we heard amidst this Ukraine Russia fracas that's really was deterrable. And now we've got 2 million dead.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a 4-star general who arguably blew it in Afghanistan with his own vanity. And now he thinks it's going to be helpful to the diaspora to say, oh yeah, we could take Kaliningrad in a day. And it's like, um, child, do you not understand that you don't have a speaking part, or that a uniformed officer with 4 stars on their chest, when they say something like that, not only does the little urchins in the press eat it up and parrot it out right away, now we've got to go back and reverse a lot of bad diplomacy with Putin and the kids over there to go, okay, I know what that sounded like, but we actually don't want a nuclear war. We actually want to fix this thing. And so if I had a criticism right now to take to the Trump administration, I have several actually, but if I had one that I would love it for the president to work on more, while he's got the world's rototiller out and he's churning up the world and he's doing all of it, um, nobody in our country, actually, I would say 80% of our country doesn't understand what this is.
Right.
So because they're on this steady diet of retail Captain Crunch style journalism,
Mm-hmm.
where they're like, I don't understand what our president's doing. And it's like, spend more time at the Resolute desk. And maybe like fireside chats used to be pre-World War II, to sit down and go, here's where we're at.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, everybody else is gonna lie about what I'm just gonna say, but I have to educate the country now,
Mm-hmm.
because you guys are fed a line of crap and you don't understand. This is a winner take all game. And if we
Mm-hmm.
lose, we're gonna lose the whole republic. It is the stakes are no lower than that. But that's why World War Forever, or the American Revolutionary War, is so important. It's not a war of choice. It's one where you're going to win it or you're going to lose your country, and you'll all be enslaved. And
Mm-hmm.
that those are the tapes. Nobody on CNN or anybody else is going to tell you that. But it's, and then when you hear stupid retail crap coming out of somebody's mouth at a party or something like that, you're like, we got work to do, kids.
Yeah, and it
It's more
is,
complicated than that.
and it's worse than that, Blaine, because then you have the second tier of geopolitics.
Mm.
Okay, and that's the
Right.
space that I nominally operate in, and I've gotten to
Mhm.
the point where I can't even talk to them anymore because
Right.
they because they're lost in their own agenda of good guys versus bad guys, and where the bad guys in China and Russia are the good guys or whatever. And I'm like, this no. I love Star Wars, dude, but this is not that morality play. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just not playing that game. This is a much more complicated game. This is much more akin to this is geopolitics, and everybody
Yeah.
is doing their thing, and everybody is
Yeah.
pursuing their interests, and there isn't a
Right.
good guy or bad guy. And every country, if you put them on the game board, if even if you like abstract this out to a game of diplomacy, right,
Yeah.
or imperial or whatever, where there's countries on the board, I got news for you. Inside those countries there are factions, just like you described
Oh
about the
yeah.
Chinese, which I really appreciate you
Sure.
going into. I can talk about the factions inside Iran or Israel
Oh
or
sure.
the UK or the
Or
United
Venezuela
States
or
or
Mexico. Yeah.
Venezuela or Mexico or anything else. And Canada. And this is what Matt Ehret did so well when he was on recently on the podcast with Dexter White, which was to go
He was
through,
brilliant. It
yeah,
was a brilliant episode.
which is to go over the thread of connections through the various mafias around the world and how that's
Exactly.
actually another layer of
The
this,
Brothman family. Yeah.
right, and all of that stuff. So we have a lot of work to do. And
Yeah.
I don't know about I try to tell people all the time, like, I don't know everything. I know I don't know everything. The
Mm.
goal is to get better every day, and
Right.
some days you learn a little bit. Some days you learn something, and for the most part, most days you don't learn anything until somebody gives you that little bit of information that then ties everything together. And all of a sudden, it's the rug that ties the room together to invoke the Big Lebowski, right? And then of course
Yeah.
and then of course the Groypers come in and piss on it all because no, it's
Oh,
just
that's
the
right.
Jews, man. Like, fuck off. Like, that's not
Yeah.
that's
Right.
like, we're not
Okay.
playing
We're
that
back
game,
in kindergarten.
right?
No, we're not. We're
Yeah.
not. But now, what I do try to get on the air when I'm on the air
Mm-hmm.
is when asked about, well, good gosh, we're going to have this cartel war, and I go, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my opinion, and this is a place where you may not agree with me, and that's totally cool.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, pulling the string now on the cartel wars is the most important string that this president has pulled in his entirety of being a president. This isn't a pickup game. This isn't an afterthought. This isn't a, oh yeah, I should do something about fentanyl, because what people don't understand, and this is a fifth generation warfare concept. So retail, we see two cigarette boats get splashed out of the United States Navy and sending them a happy message off of Venezuela. That is the snowflake on the tip of the iceberg
Mm-hmm.
of potentially America's most tactical front in this war, and that is the cartels. And this is why we're a danger here on Main Street, because they're on every main street in America. But the cartels, that is the lifeblood. That is the veins, the aortic system. That is how it all works. All the bad guys that we've been talking about, every single shady banker, every bought off politician on both sides of the aisle, because in the swamp there is no aisle, and all of it down to the deep state and its bureaucratic desks. Some of the neocons who go into think tanks and say, "I have an opinion that says this." No, I am paid for that opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So all of this and the laundering that comes with it globally, it's the cartels. And if you take that down, the strategy that I see unfolding is President Trump is looking at this Jenga tower of crime and horribleness, and he is pulling at the bottom bricks,
Yep.
and he's trying to pull it down that way. And I think he's working the top personally,
Mm-hmm.
but I think he's got some very shady dudes that I've worked with my whole career working it on the other end.
I am not going to disagree with a word you just said because I understood that. I realized very early on that the LA riots back in June that was a purposeful operation to
Yeah.
draw out his enemies. Like, I'm
Yes.
watching all of these things happen. So Tom Homan goes in to a laundromat, literally a fucking dry cleaning, a laundromat in LA, knowing full
Right.
well that because it's every day is opposite day in America and the funding sources are still in place, but the money's still in the bank accounts, but the funding has been cut off. So once that money's spent, it's gone. That what
Right.
they're going to do is, because you could see it in Trump's response. I'm like, okay, this first couple of days, I'm like, oh, this is bad. And then I'm like, and then he comes in with the National Guard. So here's the timeline.
Right.
Tom Homan goes in to issue warrants. He doesn't tell anybody why. He lets the Democrats then turn around and create a rent the spick mob, create a race issue out of it. And then Trump comes in and goes, "Oh, wow, that's a civil disorder." Nationalizes the California Guard, brings them in. That doesn't work. Bring in the Marines. Very Putin-like. Puts the color revolution down immediately.
Yep.
And then we get to find out from Tom Homan 3 days later that they were issuing warrants at this laundromat because they're dealing with cartel money.
Right.
Ding.
Yep.
It's all right there. And I have it on very good authority from some of the people that I talked to within the administration that this is the strategy. We poke them, they respond, they move money leaves a trail, we kill the money.
That's it.
If you want an even better example of why we were like Dexter and I were both like this Iran Israel thing is over if Iran doesn't strike by the end of that first weekend. Remember, Israel strikes on Thursday. By Saturday night, Dexter and I are on the phone together going, okay, if Iran doesn't like glass Israel tomorrow, this war is over because they're flying cap over Tehran, and every missile launcher is now a single-use bazooka. You can have all the missiles in the world, but you got no guns to shoot them out of. They're useless. So that's what was happening. Well, all of these dark bank accounts, single use, they light up, they get shut down, and we move on. Why do you think the Democrats are screeching at Kash Patel this week?
Oh yeah, money's drying up. Money's drying up fast. And now that USAID has been taken down, money's drying up faster than fast. And I love so this is what I love about what we're seeing unfold is when you go embark on an operation and you're on a strategy, I think what I see President Trump having a gift for is, okay, I know what I want to do and I know what the operation is. Now let me back up and see where can I get additional benefits out of the same operation. So I'm going to take a multiple benefit here, and one of them is you're seeing it play out right now. So Kash Patel goes up to talk about Charlie Kirk, and everybody wants to rip his face off because their rice bowls are disturbed. But what the ancillary part of this is they all just told us exactly who they are in terms that retail news couldn't even do it. So now you've got 58 congressmen and women that just said we will not vote to recognize or honor Charlie Kirk. And it's like you're literally doing our work for us because we wanted to go on the air, but you would rather just say I'm an evil paid off jerk and I could care less about humanity, life, or a youth leader shot down in his prime. Thank you for that.
Appreciate that.
And and on the other end of it. On the other end of it, you've got a very quiet process working that Tulsi Gabbard, and I just think the world of her, Tulsi Gabbard is working, and she's quietly working on election integrity. And so here's the brick wall these clowns are about to hit. They're coming to the midterms going, yeah, CNN polls say it's neck and neck and we're going to take back the House. It's like, you're not going to take crap because here's the problem. We're going to actually have a free and fair election and you guys won't do so well because as it turns out, communism and Sharia law are antithetical to American culture. It's not even the Constitution that's your problem. It's that we like Friday Night Lights, football games, hot dogs, sausage ones are better. And then we're going to be at church on Sunday and we're going to bring a picnic and we value that. And if you want to take those things away, we're going to go after you. We're going to go after you. And Yamamoto had warned the emperor about this when the emperor said, we'll just take America. It's like, whoa, hold up. I was educated there. Guns in America, blades of grass. And those people are crazy. They have a thing called rednecks. And that's my tribe. I can just tell you it's not going to work out. So they're melting down, but it's because of strategies that do that get you a multiple benefit. Look at the misdirection on the National Guard going into Memphis. Okay, it's going into Memphis, but we're threatening Chicago. And now we get the mayor to tell us exactly who he is, admit to his crimes. Pritzker doing the exact same thing. They out themselves. They open themselves up to constant investigation about corruption and all of that. So now they've all spoken about it. Thank you for that very much. That's called an evidentiary trail. And now you're going to get to have the National Guard. And then people there will understand what peace and calm look like. And maybe I could start a business and be okay. And
At the very least,
and then
I
there's
can walk to my
yeah,
shitty job and not get
right.
bugged. Like I get to bring I
And
get to bring
now
my
we're going to have fair
you know
elections. Has Chicago ever in its history had a fair election?
vote
I'm
early,
just
vote
asking for a
often.
friend.
Like no,
Yeah,
come on.
that's right.
So I mean, don't forget that grandma needs to vote. Grandma died 10 years ago. Yeah, she voted 4 times.
She's
Like
voting anyway.
yeah, she's voting anyway, and she's going to vote
I
four
got a
times.
tax refund check right here.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I've got her social security check right here too. Like that's not even
that's it.
So no, you're absolutely right. I've been watching this play itself out, and it's like it's the same thing with Jimmy Kimmel. Like, guys, like how many people? Oh, it's first free speech. It's the First Amendment. Like, excuse me,
Yeah,
Jen Psaki can lie through her teeth on MSNBC or
and she
PMSNBC,
does every
and
day.
she does every day because she doesn't
Yep.
have an FCC broadcast license.
No,
ABC, on
but
the
she may
other
be off the
hand,
air as
does.
one.
And there's a
Yes.
big difference in educating people about that. And if you don't like the FCC licensure system and whether or not they're right to be handing out government monopolies over certain aspects of the broadcast spectrum, that's fine. Let's have that conversation. As a matter of fact,
Right.
let's bring that conversation up because that's actually what Jimmy Kimmel's actually about. If you want to have that
That's right.
conversation, libertarians, but in the
Yeah.
world, but in the real world where there's law, and right now FCC rules are very simple. This George
Yeah.
Carlin told us there were 7 dirty words you can't say on TV, to which we had fart, turd, and twat because twat's twat,
Yeah.
and that's that.
Right.
But that is law, and it's not
Right.
about freedom of speech.
Right.
These were created entities that were given a monopoly and a license by the government, and therefore they have to
Mhm.
abide by the government's rules. And if you
Right.
openly lie on FCC license, we can take your FCC license away from you because you're not
Exactly.
acting in the public interest, which is why you were granted that. You agreed to act in the public interest, then you chose not to. Therefore, fuck off. Done. This is not a free speech issue.
I think first though, and it looks like the president's going to take it up. They've got to go ahead and deal with the Smith-Mundt Act and
I
make
agree.
propaganda illegal in the country again.
I
And
agree.
then once that table is set there, then we can start talking about your licenses because
Okay.
you're really just an arm of the Democratic National Committee.
Well, same thing with the school board, same thing with everything else. Like this is why DeSantis going after property. We can like go off on this whole tangent, right?
Oh
About
yeah,
how to restore property rights and how are we going to restore the republic. You opened your opening monologue, which I really appreciated. Came down to, are we going to restore the constitutional republic or not?
right.
And
Right.
we can have a conversation about whether the Constitution is perfect or not perfect. I'm happy to have that conversation, but
Sure.
that's an intellectual debate. That is not and that's certainly a debate that we can have,
Yeah.
in the going forward. But let's start talking about the real issues here, which is that the entire
Yeah.
constitutional edifice and why it failed is because the
Hmm.
founders, in their lack of wisdom, believed in
Right.
eminent domain.
Yes. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if we're ultimately not in the place to be able to say this is my property and it is my castle,
Yes. And I'll defend it.
and I'm paying rent to the government every year, well then I'm a
Yeah. No,
feudal
we all rent.
I'm a
None of
feudal
us own
slave.
any
I'm a
property.
feudal serf.
None of us own any property at all.
Exactly.
We rent. We rent from the government. And honestly, this is the thing. Now you're going to take us on a little sub journey through Charlie Kirkland.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are like, well, he took all these donations in and he made a lot of people angry. It's like, hold up. We've got a very gifted learning curve off the charts, 20 something, strong Christian, strong in his faith and values, who in that early an age, look, when I was his age at 23, he's 31 when he died, but when he was in his 20s making his name at the same age, I was flying T-38s, 10 feet tall, bulletproof, best pilot in the squadron, just ask me. And what I valued was, what are we doing on the club on Friday night? This guy's thinking giant thoughts. He's attracting all these young people, and that attracts attention from funders. They come in and they say, listen, I'm going to write you some checks. I want to see Turning Point do well. But what you can't do is stop the evolution of a learning curve. And this gets us to the private property piece. So in June, he starts questioning things. things that his donors would prefer him not to question. One of those things is the top three private equity firms in the nation purchasing one out of four homes that go into defunct status and then renting it back at twice the damn rent to the people who just lost their everything.
Yep.
And preying on national disasters, natural disasters, whether they were natural or unnatural, a whole nother rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
But going in and scooping and stealing and stealing and stealing. So it's not just that you're paying the property taxes, the school bond nonsense, the over appraisals, and I'm going to rip you out of your house. Charlie Kirk was questioning this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then he starts questioning other stuff about what are we doing in these wars? Why, what was this our only way to solve the Gaza problem? And bam, now we have a guy who is going to get taken out by a trans person with a Mauser at 200 yards. Spare me. Spare me. I'm a military pilot, and I'm not going to profess to say I know 100,000% of all military operations. I can tell you though that I know who to talk to about those things,
Mm-hmm.
and my spooky friends who are combat arms specialists will say they've got a lot more work to do in this investigation.
Mm-hmm.
And so my words to Cash, and I like Cash a lot, but my words to Cash would be the country can't keep doing these events where we have a Butler or even a JFK and a Charlie Kirk. Oh yeah, we released the records in 2057 and it was all redacted anyway.
Right.
So what Charlie was pulling on was the string.
Yeah.
Are we a republic? Are we self-governed? Do our rights matter?
Mm-hmm.
And can we own property ourselves?
In America.
There's no problem paying for a school with taxes. Pay the taxes, but you can't take a lien out of my property if I can't make the payment.
Mm-hmm.
But if you miss a property tax payment by 25 cents, I'm taking your 300 acres. It's not right.
No,
And
it's all right.
he was going there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have that type of following, well, then the shadowy overlords that you and I talked about at the beginning of this podcast start to make some decisions.
Yeah.
And because this hit was done so roughshod, so raw, so vulgar, I love my friend Michael Yan. He even said this 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
There's 90 different ways to kill somebody so that you didn't even know that they were killed.
Right.
If it's just simply about an assassination, people can get disappeared all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But this was done to send a
Of
message
course.
to others. This turf we will defend. And it gets back to our point at the beginning. This is a war. This is the world forever war. The world forever war is fifth generation warfare.
Mm-hmm.
War by any means. Everything is war. Everything is in play.
Yes.
And that's why it's for all the marbles. And Americans have to be educated. That's important. But then they've got to understand that because the president is pulling on the number one string, and we've had 4 years of open borders, brothers and sisters, you may have to defend Main Street because there are more of them than there are all military, first responders, everybody. You may have to come together as communities and neighborhoods to say, it could get spicy here. Don't blame President Trump. He's trying to fix it.
Right.
But don't think anymore that wars are fought overseas. That's nonsense.
No, and I agree, and I have. I'll be honest with you. I even have said flat out that I can be okay with it being the kid that they're feeding us doing this, right? But but there's something beyond that. Clearly.
Right.
And there's also then the opportunists coming in to clearly muddy the fucking waters for their own agenda. And they're doing that on purpose. We're watching everybody, crash out here from Candace Owens to Tucker Carlson to everybody. And I'm like, I'm done. Right. And it's interesting we were talking about this, privately the other day. And when I went to do the market report for the patrons on Wednesday, I had just come to the conclusion while I was working on it. We were talking through this stuff, and I said, it's funny. I'm watching all of these assets of all these middle managers, all these order takers, all these middle managers, or even senior management, right? And Candace Owens is an order taker. She's a low level operative. When you're watching all of these, and then who she represents, even they're crashing out, right?
Sure.
You're watching them all burn each other, and they're all pointing fingers at each other, which is a fascinating thing, because when at the end of that day, Trump comes out and says, hey, I'm going to nominate Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, which they all knew was coming, right? So they were trying to get ahead of it by then trying to deflect blame from themselves, do cover for status, as Ian Burlingame would put it, and say and point fingers at each other. And when I came to the conclusion of, oh, this is a circular firing squad of paranoia, because tangentially to this entire thing, they're all guilty,
right,
via RICO. Even if they
are.
weren't directly involved or even indirectly involved, because they have connections, and because the RICO statutes are so unbelievably fucking tyrannical, in my personal opinion, they're going to be,
totally
they could be used here in a way that is, I mean, look,
and
Mr. RICO
Big
himself
string.
was at the fucking was at the friggin' dinner that you and I met at. Like, this all comes back full circle. Like, and that's how we cleaned up New York, for better or for worse.
That's right. That's right. So here we go. Let's put it in historical terms. The big string on the cartels, what he's doing with China and Russia, and then bringing City of London to heel. And then this RICO thing. So as soon as he made the Antifa announcement, I immediately went to Soros. And I immediately went to those syndicates and said, I see what's happening here. This is easy to see. But then forget Soros, forget Alex, forget all that other crap. The bigger target here, where the boomerang's going to pass through, is the United States Congress.
Yep.
Because all of these people have slop all over them to enable these things. This has been a profit center for them. And it's going to go from profit center to jail cell or worse. Because some of these things are high treason. And when we get into the cubicle dwellers, really high treason. And we know their names. And it's not, they're players individually, but what they've done in mass is they've sold out the American people, our republic, our prosperity. They've stolen from us. They've killed us. They've created double standards on us, multi-tier justice system. And again, my advice to the president is, you've done enough now. You've shown enough leg on what you're doing, that it's time to educate us, because then we can have more patience. Right now, everybody wants to go right at Pam Bondi. I mean, I know. There's times when I'm like, what are we doing? And what I would say, though, is if you think of the magnitude of what the president's trying to pull off, I want you to go back to World War II. This is the same as doing Okinawa, Battle of Leyte Gulf, Battle of Midway, and D-Day at the exact same time.
Yes.
All the exact same time. Yes. That's what he's attempting to achieve here.
It is I keep bringing up my favorite television show of all time, Babylon 5. It is Londo sitting there with Rifa going, only an idiot fights a war on 2 fronts. Only the heir to the throne of the kingdom of idiots fights a war on 12 fronts. And Donald Trump must be the king of the universe of the kingdom of idiots, because he's fighting a war on 15 or 18 fronts. And he's doing so because he understands that there really is only one front.
That's right.
Okay. And that's the thing. And that is what I believe. And I didn't believe that about Trump when he was elected back in November. I was like, I'm in show me mode. You have to show me that you understand the dynamic of City of London, the Anglo Dutch thing. You have to show that to me for me to get behind you whole hog this time, because I'm going to sit here and I'm just going to be very Missouri about it, even though I'm fucking from New York. Like, that's the way it is. But you show that to me, and I'm like, okay.
So let me ask you a question. Who do you think the functional chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff is? Is it General Dan Kane, or is it Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent? Which one?
Oh, it's definitely Bessent.
No question.
There's no question to me. No question.
If Bessent shows up in your country with the president, you've got him. You're gonna have a bad day. You're just gonna have you're screwed.
When I listen to Bessent talk, Blaine, I hear him say things like, I mean, this is missing. And I've had dinner with Martin Armstrong about this as well. And I did a podcast with Martin, Sean Newman and Alex Craner back up in May after we did Cornerstone. And Martin made it abundantly clear. He's like, I've traded against Bessent and Soros. And I was in the room with Marty. That was an audio only podcast. I was in the room with Marty, and the smug look on his face was, and I beat the crap out of them. Okay. And I'm sorry, Marty, I'm letting that one out into the universe. But what I've also noted is that, when I see Bessent talk about trading against these guys, I see the exact same fucking look. Like, I'm not lying to you. I was in the room with 2 of the best traders in the world, 2 of the best. Yeah. And I can tell you, Bassett knows exactly what he's doing. There's a reason why the
Yeah,
euro is at
that's
$1.18.
right.
It's still at a
That's
dollar
right.
eighteen, even though it should be falling off a cliff, and that's because he's strangling them in the futures
That's right.
market. He's using the T-bill market to do it,
No
and it's
question. Oh, no question.
fucking brilliant.
It is.
It
It
is,
is.
and this is
My favorite time, I make sure that I have popcorn, little jalapenos, and some melted cheese when he's going to be scheduled to speak to Congress or the Senate, because I don't want to miss that. Because it's absolutely okay. So Scott's going to sit in there, and then he's going to be with a bunch of unarmed children,
I know.
and they're going to make asses of themselves, and their staffers will try to ask questions,
Yeah.
and none of this is going to work. And Scott has this really lovely, stoic poker player's face with just the hint of a grin that shows, if I don't win here, we're going out of the saloon, and we'll duke it out at high noon via revolvers. But again, you look at this guy and you're like, this is not your Janet Yellen,
No,
okay? This is not what's going on here.
no, no, no.
And it's a pleasure to watch, because he is the general fighting the fifth generation war. Now, I what I would recommend,
Mhm.
because this war is in all the pockets of everything, is get a promising general officer, 1, 2 star level, somebody with some warfighting experience, somebody with some strategic bones, understands what's going on, and then go detail him for 6 months to descent,
Mhm.
and let him have a mentor protege relationship,
Mhm.
because there needs to be a fusion there. There needs to be, we always talk in war college about, oh, this is diplomatic information, this is military, and this is economic, and these are the elements of power. And it's like, yeah, but none of you generals understand macroeconomics.
Mhm.
None of you generals understand how currency flows work, which means on the battlefield, you're some of the most dangerous people on the planet, because you got F-22s and nuclear weapons.
Yes.
So we can't have you walking around in the damn dark while Scott Dissent is making art, and suddenly you let a bomb go off and you say, "Oh, we could take Kaliningrad in a day." It's like, shut up.
I,
The man is working. And so I think stitching those things together would be helpful.
it would be helpful, and I can tell you that that's why we do what we do.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, and it's why I can tell you that's why I had to go into every, I had to broaden the scope and always then bring it back, and broaden the scope and bring it back,
Right,
and become and get into all five aspects of the fifth generational warfare,
right.
economic, financial, cultural,
Sure.
militaristic, and geopolitical, and or whatever you want to call it, and the propaganda war and everything else, in order to try and understand. But you have to have a model that
Hmm.
works. And if you don't have a
Right.
model that works, you have to be constantly throwing stuff out there. I was trying to explain this to somebody on Twitter the other day, and I think you'll understand the metaphor well. And it wasn't a tweet; it was a reply. So of course nobody saw it. Which is that, look,
Hmm.
um, my method is to throw a lot of stuff, take shots at small targets, the minor
Hmm.
targets. Take hot shots at small targets that may not even be a target. And if I miss, and I'm wrong, but I've learned something. This is the
Right.
scientist background of, let's test this side hypothesis to get to the universal field theory. We're going to test this
Yeah.
thing over here, and we're going to shoot at it. If you hit every once in a while, that's good. But if you miss, it's just as valuable, because it's now going to give you information, so that when you
Right.
go to make the big call, the 5 basis
Yeah.
points to change the world, or
Yeah.
whatever, you're not going to be wrong about that, because if you're wrong about the big call, that's the career ender. That's the one that trashes your credibility. So that's the
Yeah.
tightrope we all walk in this place.
Right.
And I'm like, guy, and I've been screaming at my brethren in the alt finance and alt meat and alt geopolitical space. Your
Yeah.
models are off. You're not
Right.
seeing it. You have to
Right.
update your model. I know it's against your
Yes.
business model.
Yep.
Sorry, like, you're going to have
Yeah.
to take the hit if you want to become better at this, because
Welcome to the singularity. This is the way it works.
and I said 6 months ago, Blaine, I literally we're saying on podcasts, like, 6 months from now, people that you trusted, you are going to leave in the dust.
That's right.
People, and I hope
That's
that
right.
I'm not one of those people, because I hope
Yeah.
I'm not terribly wrong about it. But so far,
No, but
so far
we're
we've done
constantly
okay.
renewing. Tom, you do the same thing. I have listened to all your podcasts. You're constantly renewing. And the other cool part that I think is so true about you is, I have watched you on all these other podcasts, and I have watched guests like Alex Craner, Sean as a host or whatever, even our wonderful friends over at the Prometheus Project, influence your thinking. It doesn't mean that when Ian Burlingame stands up and says we're going to get 249s and we're going to take them all at dawn. I I know you're going to push that off a little bit,
Right.
but then when EM starts talking about the value in our youth of learning how to once again the art of being a man, I know
Mhm.
you're going to embrace that.
Of course.
And so I think it's that constant education. For my model as a scatterbrain strategist guy who's flown and all kinds of things, my model, I call it jigsaw puzzle strategy.
Mhm.
And so what I do is I'm out there and I'm just collecting puzzle pieces.
Yep.
And I'm even open to some of those pieces not even being part of this damn puzzle. But what I try to do in the box is I keep the puzzle pieces in the box. I keep them.
Yep.
And then
The
as
metaphor.
events start to unfurl, as they start to unfold, and I'm opening myself to new lines of thinking, I can tell you that Alexander McCurris, uh, Alex Christoforou, they at the Duran, they have, they have made me stand upside down in my head, and I'm like, huh, okay, that is a puzzle piece. Let me. Oh, it interlocks right here. Hold on. I've got the Europe piece right here. Kaya Kalas and this they go together,
Right.
and then I'll set that off to the side because it really is. It's a tapestry, really,
Right.
and and
It's also multiple puzzles.
yeah,
And remember, one of the things that I talk about all the time is that the information is fractal, right? So
it is.
you may like Alex and Alex may do a great job of finding this thing over here, but then miss
Yeah,
but see that thing, but then miss the grander picture because they're either
right.
resistant to it or whatever. And again, we're not trying to call them out. They're friends of mine. I desperately
Oh, I
want
love
to
them.
see
Yeah.
everybody. I want to see everybody level up, dude. Like I'm on this thing. Like the last thing I want to be is the guy standing out there by myself trying to figure it all out because I can't do it on my own. Right?
Well,
Like, no one can.
this is why I call what I'm doing dangerous intellectuals because
Mhm.
in any one time, any of us can see each other's work, and there'll be times when I'm speaking and I know I can feel E.M. Burlingame in Boise, Idaho's breath on my back going,
Right.
"Whoa." And it's like, and I do the same thing with everybody. And
Sure.
so
So
this
do I.
is what I'm trying to promote in the country
Mhm.
is it's a return to critical thinking. And some of you have never done it before, and that's really okay.
Mhm.
But it is time to critically think. And that means that you take that education you got and you take all those certificates on the wall, go throw them into the closet and go, I'm just a person and I need to know about this. Now, what can I know about it?
Yeah.
And that's where you start. And then when people feed you retail crap out of the mainstream press, just understand there's no law against propaganda in our nation.
Yeah. Yeah, no, and that's why we're going to rename the repeal of the Smith Month Act to Charlie Kirk,
Right.
right? And
That's right.
that little redhead girl who came up with that
She
that
was
she went
awesome.
completely viral, and then she's
Oh, yeah.
oh,
Yep.
and I know flat out like I like that conversations like this one wind up in the West Wing of the White House some
Mhm.
way, manner, shape, or form. I
Mhm.
told this absolutely correctly about this. I'm not busting my hand, patting myself on the back. I don't give a shit. If you
Sure.
like the work, great. If you don't like the work, do with it what
Right.
you're gonna do.
Das Vidania.
That's the best the best I can do is present the thing as best I can and present as much signal as
That's right.
possible. And then you decide whether it's noise. I don't care. Um
Yeah.
and but knowing that also comes with a certain amount of burden and a certain
Mhm.
amount of responsibility, of course, which no
Sure.
one ever really expected. And
Right.
you didn't say, this is the thing I want to make abundantly clear about Charlie Kirk. Charlie Kirk died before I even had my political awakening. I didn't have my political awakening until I was 32 years old.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
Other than having consumed a lifetime at that point of alternative fiction and this and all of and I did all the intellectual groundwork to become
Yeah.
the dude who had that moment. Charlie Kirk
Sure.
started that moment at 18 and over
Right.
13 years built something insane, but
Amazing.
it was intentional. He
Yeah.
had a plan and he
He did.
executed.
Yeah.
The rest of us are kind of like, well, I found myself here. Oh, look at
Yeah.
did I find myself? Did I expect to find myself here? No. If I look back on
Right.
my life and go, huh, did you think you were on any other path, dude? No, you
No.
really didn't. You just weren't conscious of it. So,
Yeah.
um, but the guys who were conscious of it You have to
Right.
doff your hat to them, and then you also have to pay it forward.
Yeah, you do.
And I
You
don't use
absolutely
that
do.
phrase lightly because I think it's
Right.
generally code for socialism, and which I'm
No, but I think what you're saying is the day after Charlie died, and I certainly felt this was, you know what? Truth matters more today than it did yesterday.
absolutely.
If you're going to go shoot him, then what we're going to do is we're going to double and triple down.
Yep.
You can't kill us all. So get ready because there'll just be more of it, heaps more of it.
Mhm.
It's like I was never going to do media again after the Kyrgyz Revolution,
Mhm.
and I did some nonprofit work in my building of businesses and stuff, and and then Kabul fell, and now I'm doing grief counseling for everybody from two stripes all the way up to two stars. That was my squadron where those bodies were falling off of those airplanes. I had commanded that at one time, and they're all with me. And I had people who used to work with me on the ground there telling me play by play what's going on. A woman that used to be my protocol officer, she had to take a dead baby out of an Afghan man's hands because he couldn't get onto the base, and we just turned our backs on our friends. Well, I called my public relations friend up and I said, any microphone, any camera, any pen, anywhere, anytime. And then 2 weeks into it, I won't call names out, but a brigadier general from the Air Force called me and said, "Hey, Blaine, the chief wants to know, seeing you on all these networks, wants to know if you're planning on keeping this up." So that's code for something else.
Mhm.
And I said, "Yes, yes, you can look forward to me never stopping now." Because in my own brain, and this is your awakening was 32, mine was 45. And I was brigadier general. I'm running logistics for the entire European theater, big job, for the whole Defense Department. And in my portfolio is Israel. I've got the European theater. I'm working with the Russians, and then we have a thing happen called Benghazi. And I was intimately involved with something happening near Benghazi at the time. Me and an Army two-star. And everything I saw that night, mentally, I was like, okay, I've got to leave. I'm no longer in alignment with my oaths. And so I got to be the deputy representative at NATO, a nice place to do some negotiations. Flemish is my second language. It was a great time. I had a great three-star boss. And then I said, you all don't have to worry about me. I'm going to be quiet. I'm going to jump over that thing called the swamp, and I'm going to go into the country, get a real job, and I'm going to build businesses. And that's what I will do. And then Kabul happened. And then it changed.
Well, we're glad you're here. Thank you. No,
It's my
I mean
pleasure.
that, and I mean that sincerely, and thank you for being willing to talk about it in those terms, and because it's everybody has their moment of radicalization, everybody has their moment of
Yeah.
their turning point, and for you, I
Yeah.
didn't real I it didn't happen for me that way, and it certainly
Mhm.
was very simple. I just took the world's smallest political quiz and went, oh, I know what my fucking problem is. I'm a libertarian. And then the libertarians decided to like go become Marxists, and I'm like, now I don't know what the fuck. Now I don't know what to call myself,
No country.
and I don't really care. And all I know is that I guess I do. And this is one of the few times you will see me quote James Lindsay. I will say, yes, I'm an anti-communist,
Yes. Yes. Which makes me an American.
which makes me an American. Exactly.
Right.
So, and more appropriately, yeah, and that and when I say anti-communist, that means of the most virulent variety, which is British
Oh, yes.
communism, not
Yes.
Russian or Chinese communism. British
Right.
communism
Aggressively so.
is the worst
City of
one.
London style communism.
Right, is
Yeah.
the worst
Where
one
it was
because it's
born.
the fake one that also created
Yeah.
fascism and then set them against each other in the classic red ant, black ant model of my
Oh, yeah.
good friend Alex Craner. So,
Love that.
yeah, no, dude, it's a hard thing. It's a hard road to hoe, and yeah, it is. It's just hard to do, but you know what? It's also the only thing worth doing.
Yeah. That's right.
It
That's
really
right.
is because
If if you have these gifts to articulate what's happening
right.
in real terms, balls and strikes, and if you can see what the real threat is as opposed to all the fake ones that are put out in front of everybody like paper targets,
Mhm.
that's a service, and people need that service because. And I get this. I just came back from a conference at Austin, and everybody was you 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 can't get this information anywhere. And I go, but you can, and you're going to have to learn to be data miners, unfortunately.
Mhm.
It was a data center conference, which I find greatly ironic, but
Right.
but that's what's necessary from us right now. So if Scott Bessent is the real de facto chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, well, we're lieutenants. We're lieutenants out here saying we'll do whatever we can, but this republic is worth saving, and it's worth completing the deal that the founders started, which was the American Revolutionary War, and it's still worth winning.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because ultimately, this is an ideological fight. As Alex would put it, two systems of governance, but I'm going to make it really blunt. Yeah, those two
Yeah.
systems of governance are serfdom.
Yep. That's right.
And a sovereignty.
That's right.
And
that's exactly right.
They have to prove to the world that the American experiment was a failure. They have to prove that, because if they don't, it's going to leave that lingering doubt in everybody's minds that maybe the Americans had it right. They have to put it down. This is why they won't stop until they're removed from the scene. And so you remove them from the scene. You remove them from the scene through a variety of steps.
Mm-hmm.
And cutting off the internal money is the easy part, because that's the part that Trump controls. Then you go after their external money. Mm-hmm. Then you go after their lifeblood.
Oh yeah, no question about it.
Which is the cartels, which is why I didn't disagree with you earlier about it, because I understand.
But that's why I understand
that progression.
We've got to teach America, whether this is what's really going on right now today from the Resolute desk, mm-hmm. but also we've got to demand. It's not just about getting pornography out of the schools and the trans crap. We've got to reinfuse the schools something to teach, like de Tocqueville, like
or Plato, or I don't know.
Yes, amen.
I'm getting a little crazy here. I don't know, maybe foundation of civilization itself. I'm just thinking.
Exactly. There's a reason they killed Socrates.
There's a reason they killed Karl Marx.
That's right.
It's the same reason.
That's exactly right. It's the same reason. It's over and over and over again. But they can't kill us all, and we absolutely have an opportunity to be the Sons of Liberty too. Mm-hmm. But there's never been a better time, and the president needs it. But the president can't get a rubber stamp either. And so my advice is your comms. Watch out for the creepy oligarch guys. Get to know a little bit more about how all these technologies start to fuse together and what it looks like when they fuse, mm-hmm. Because that'll be the new battlefield. Just as sure as the sun's going to come up tomorrow. And again, there are strategies to use to put that into the proper context and box. So I'm not worried about Gotham or Palantir's pre-policing program, but I am looking actively at what the countermeasures are to make that blow right up in their faces, because we're Americans, we want to be free, we insist. But this nonsense that you'll get every night on TV, which is no, it's the USSR has now reformed itself, and we're all going to be in deep trouble. And here comes a hypersonic missile, and here comes this nonsense about Taiwan. It's like, oh, that's the last thing they're going to do.
Yeah.
Because the Taiwanese would whip China's ass in 5 seconds. Go show me one Chinese Navy boat that's made out of marine grade steel. Go ahead, I'll listen. Go below the waterline and find the orange hulls, and then you'll have your answer.
Right.
And then I'll show you a lot of rich Chinese generals who never thought they'd ever go to war, who maybe profited on that spread.
Like, oh, you think we're the only ones who are corrupt?
Right. There's gambling in the casino.
Okay. It's like I tell people all the time, I'm like, being a shitbag is not an ethnicity.
That's right. That's exactly it.
All right, man. Like, we'll cut it off here. We'll do this again real soon. Looking forward to you being on the other side of the mic, because it'll be a good time. So with that said, let everybody know what you do, what's important to you, and all the rest of it, and we'll get out the door.
Sure. So I'm a tech entrepreneur. Xeriant.com is my company. We're doing something really special. We're going to go out into the market with some high-tech advanced materials. I have my column that I write over at Newsmax. It's called The Irascible Disruptor on the Insiders page. And on Twitter, you can find me at _Irascible. And coming soon, Dangerous Intellectuals, we will launch an audio podcast, and it'll be fun.
It'll be fun. And as always, I'm TFL1728 on Twitter, where the worst version of me will show up every day, even worse than what you heard today. Patreon.com/Gold Goats and Guns if you want to give us the shekels, as my detractors now want to say that I've sold out for. So with that said, I'm out. You guys be well. You take care. We'll talk soon. Keep your stick on the ice.